Hi, I'm Rachel. And almost exactly 1 year ago, I submitted my children's book illustration portfolio to 10 children's book illustrators or writer-illustrator combination boutiques and one all-around illustration agent. And I want to let you know what happened. So which illustration agents did I select? Well, I'm not going to tell you the names of those, but I'm sure that you would know who they are and recognize them if I were to tell you the names. They are the most wonderful and incredible boutique agencies that are out there today. I love the work that they create, and so I selected my absolute favorites because I thought, why not aim for the stars? But first, how do you submit to an art agent? First of all, you need to create a smashing portfolio. So leading up to before the time that I submitted, I've been working for about 5 years drawing children's book illustrations and other types of illustrations. And I also took several online classes about creating children's book. Being a children's book illustrator is a dream that I've had since I was a child. And it's only in the last couple of years that I've actually started taking steps to get there. So what do you put in a children's book portfolio? Well, experts agree that you should have between 15 and 20 very strong pieces. You need to go through the art that you've already created and take out the ones that aren't your strongest pieces. You need to select your strongest ones that show a diversity of characters, environments, lighting, composition, and you want to show a variety of types of illustrations as well. There are 3 main types of illustrations that you would include. They are spot, which is a single freestanding icon or character. And the second one are called vignettes. And vignettes have kind of not clear edges. They're a little bit fuzzy on the edges and fuzzy in shape. They don't have to fill an exact rectangle. And the third type are full page bleeds, which is an illustration that goes off the page, basically. It fills the entire page. It could be single page or double page spreads. So those are the 3 types of illustrations you want to include in your portfolio. And as far as subject matter, you want to include things that children would like to look at. To create the best children's book portfolio, I suggest that you go to your local children's library. I happen to have 6 kids and half are adults now. But over the years, I've spent so much time at our local children's library. I've actually crossed state lines to go to their library as well. And so I'm quite familiar with a lot of work that has been created over the past 2 decades. I love children's books and I still go and check them out today. But you want to see what's current, what's coming out, and you want to try to create some work that looks fresh and doesn't look dated in style. Children's picture books are targeted towards the younger set, targeted towards like age 3 to 6. Sure, there's the board books, which are for babies, but then there's also the typical picture book, which is a 32-page book. Sometimes they can have 8 pages more, but that costs more, so there are fewer of those. A typical children's book also has 500 words, roughly. I have noticed that the older picture books have a lot more words, and I actually prefer those than to the shorter ones that come out today. However, there are some fantastic children's books that have come out today, and so word limit is not necessarily a bad thing, but it depends. So I suggest sitting down and either illustrating one of your favorite classics. You could illustrate a fairy tale or fables, or a picture book. You can take some classic tale like Cinderella and make pictures of your own to go with it. You can also create stories of your own and create your own cast of characters. You can include animals. Make sure to include a diverse cast of characters with different skin tones, hair types, ones with different abilities, with glasses, with wheelchairs, different cultures, and activities that the kids are doing. But I say all that to say, actually, you should draw what's on your heart. What type of things do you want to see in the world? And create a portfolio that shows that type of thing. So now after you've created your 15 to 20 pieces, you want to set them up on your website. And you also want to create some very crisp and clear JPEGs. And you need to go and research a list of agents that you want to submit to. Every agency has their own particular way that they want you to submit. Some have an online form that they want you to fill out and attach a couple of JPEGs. Some want just your website link to your portfolio. Others want you to attach 3 or 4 JPEGs, and others actually allow up to 10 JPEGs. So you want to read carefully exactly what they want, because if you do not follow their guidelines, your work is not going to even be seen. And after you create a list of agencies that you want to submit to, you want to find the name of the art agent who will be viewing your portfolio. And you want to write a personalized letter to them. to let them know why you want to work with them, why you think your art is a great fit, and what you admire about their agency. Obviously, you should know something about those agencies that you are submitting to. Do you know what books they've been putting out? Are you familiar with any of the illustration work and the illustrators who create that work? Make sure that you're personal, you're not just sending a bulk email to a bunch of people. I mean, if you're going to work for somebody, you really want to know why you would care to work for that company. And then after you create that letter, upload those JPEGs, triple check it to make sure that you followed all their guidelines, and then hit send. After that, it's a waiting game. So right now I'm going to show you some of the JPEGs that I attached to some of the submissions. There is some overlap here. You will see some of the same pictures from various ones, and you can see that I selected different types of art for different agencies based on what I felt that they might want to see. I was really happy with the work that I created and that I submitted. So now you've seen a bit of what I sent out. So after I sent, what happened next? Did I hear back? What happened? Well, I had told myself that I would hear back from nobody, that all I would hear would be crickets. You see, I've been listening to art podcasts for a couple of years now, and it seems to be that a lot of artists are frustrated after submitting because they don't hear anything back. I mean, agents are really busy people, and for them to take time off to look at your portfolio is an honor. They don't get paid for that. And just imagine, what if they get 100 submissions a week? That means 400 a month to sift through, and that takes time that they're not going to be making money from, that they could be doing other things. What if they get 500 a week? It's really quite an incredible thing for them to take the time. However, but it is to their benefit if they find good talent out there. But I had already prepped myself that I wouldn't hear from anybody, because that's basically what a lot of people say. So when I heard back within 10 days from one of the illustration agencies, I was so excited. It was a no, and that was fine. They were very kind, and they shared that they are not looking for any artists right at the moment, but to keep on doing what I'm doing. I was super excited, and then surprised when within 2 weeks I'd heard back from 3 more agents, 2 of which gave personalized notes about how my work is very narrative and that I should really keep on and keep going because I'm on the right track. That was super exciting. I was super pumped, and then 3 months later, I heard back from 2 more. Sure, they were all no's, and those were just kind of like a thank you for submitting, and one of them even suggested a book resource on how to be a good children's book writer and illustrator. So imagine my surprise that after submitting, within 3 months' time, I had heard back from 6 out of the 11. That was an amazing track record, and I was super excited. Was I discouraged in any way? Yes, of course. I was hoping to have an agent by this time. However, it caused me to do a deep dive and to look at my art more critically. So there are a few things that I noticed. Number one, I noticed that all of my characters tended to be older. They were not fit towards the target audience. Now this is not something that any of the agents pointed out to me. It's just something that I noticed when looking through my artwork. I also tended to draw art that fits more middle grade literature, such as I drew Victor Hugo in his library. That is a high school book. I drew something from Narnia. Those are, my kids read those in 3rd grade. So those are definitely not the 3 to 6-year-old age. And I also draw historical characters and historical settings. I'm drawn towards historical stories and biographies. So I think I'm pretty niched into that is the type of book that I would like to draw. I began to wonder if my art actually fits children's books. And I would say it might not fit that generalized 3 to 6 years old, but I think there's a place for a little bit older children picture books that are a little bit longer than the 500 word category, that are more nonfiction. I do like children's nonfiction books. I recently read a book on writing, and in it the author explained how she actually broke into the industry, and she had created her first middle grade youth novel, and she was so excited about it. She had edited and re-edited it so many times, and she thought it was ready for publication. She had finally found a publisher who was willing to read it, and with the submission, she decided at the last second to submit 5 pages of a historical novel that she was working on. So when the publisher finally got back with her, well, this middle grade youth novel, we have tons of stuff like that. It's cookie cutter. It's just like everybody else's. But these 5 pages of historical fiction, this is where your writing fits. That really got me thinking that maybe I'm looking in the wrong place for my illustration work. You see, I have a master's degree in interior design, and I love rendering interiors and environments and settings. And I don't tend to actually enjoy drawing characters. I can do them, but they're not my favorite things to draw. I absolutely love creating an environment, and it got me to thinking that perhaps my art might be better suited for adult picture books, or for older children's books, or for cookbooks, or some other form. I also am very interested in art licensing and illustration work in general that goes onto products and onto home decor. So at this moment, I want to pursue those things. I realize that on this art journey, I have not yet narrowed down my art niche. I'm still trying out so many different things. And so receiving all of these no's, while it was initially a bit of a discouragement, it's really not. I know and I am confident that I am an artist. I want to be an artist who actually creates work that people see and can use in their everyday life. So I'm continuing on that path. I am not giving up my dreams, and I'm actually more motivated than ever to increase my skills and to create better work and to do a deep dive into what do I want to create? What do I want to see out in the world? I want to draw from the depths and create art that really resonates with me and that is beautiful. And I think I haven't gotten to my best work yet. So if that's you, who you've submitted and have not heard back, or maybe you've heard back and you've gotten discouraged, don't be discouraged. If you're an artist, you are an artist, and you create art because you love doing it. You can look back and see there were so many artists who never sold any of their artwork while they were alive, and they still made art. So keep making the art that you make. Another point I wanted to say is that creating books is a team effort. If you want to become a children's book illustrator, you also need to be okay with the idea that there's a whole host of people who will be working on it and tweaking your work and asking you to make a lot of edits and changes. So your artwork may not actually represent who you are and the type of line work and style that you want it to be. That's only natural because books for children have to sell. They're really expensive to print, and I get it. There's a team of the publisher, the art agent, the cover editor, the copywriting editor, and a host of other people who have a say, who vote on your creation. So it becomes not just your book, but everybody's book that's working on the team. So if you're not okay with that, then it's probably not a great fit for you. But I realize that if I were to get into that, I'd be okay with that. I think it's kind of exciting to work with some other people. But right now, because I don't have an agent, I am completely free to work in the style that I want and create the art that I want to see. Okay, now I would like to tell you about some creative art-related podcasts that I love to listen to whenever I am doing some rendering. I don't typically listen while I am creatively thinking through an illustration, but whenever I'm just coloring in, I can listen to a podcast. One of my favorites is the Illustration Department with Giuseppe Castellano. He interviews a lot of top illustrators who are tops in their games, as well as children's book illustrators, and I find that his podcast is very in-depth and you learn so much from just hearing their life stories. And another one I love to listen to is Windowsill Chats with Margot Tanto. She was part of the Matt's Home Decor class that I took way back when, and she is a wealth of knowledge. She's so cheerful and friendly, and she interviews so many different artists who have their hands in so many different things. So it is a wonderful podcast to listen to get to know all the artists that are out there that you can become friends with. It feels like you're sitting down and having a cup of coffee or a cup of tea with art friends. Another great art podcast is The Professional Creative with Bonnie Christine. She is known for her surface pattern design class in Adobe Illustrator, but she is so much more. And she has recently started this podcast maybe a year or two ago, year and a half. And she has a lot of episodes on the creative art business and how you get that going. And then I absolutely have to tell you about the Creative Pep Talk podcast with Andy J. Pizza. He is phenomenal. He's so funny, and he really dives deep into the psychology of creating art, as well as the obstacles that we creatives often come into and how to overcome those obstacles. He interviews people, and he just does a deep dive on all kinds of artsy things. So he's really fun to listen to. Another one is Lisa Congdon's The Creative Sessions podcast. I think that she just ended her podcast series and she's done with it for now, but the sessions are still up there so you can listen to them if you want to. There is the Thriving Women podcast with Ping He and two other colleagues, and that one's a fairly new podcast, but they have a lot of fun episodes on the working creative. There's also the Good Ship Illustration podcast with Helen Stevens and two more colleagues. Together, Helen with her two colleagues have illustrated many, many books between the three of them, as well as they are just a wealth of knowledge about the children's book industry because they know it from the inside out. Another podcast that I used to listen to for a long time is the 3-Point Perspective. These are three guys who are all illustrators and who all have been teaching at the college level children's book illustration. They also have a website called SVS Learn where you can take classes on illustration if you want to. They dive into everything art business as well as particulars of illustrating for children's books and the details all about composition, how to make a good illustration, and they are a wealth of knowledge as well. Then there's the Odd Podcast with Kayla Stark. She only has a couple of episodes, but she's a well-known illustrator. She has a really fun style, and her podcasts are fun to listen to. And the last one that I want to mention is SCBWI, the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. And of course, we know what that is if we want to be a children's book illustrator. And they interview some successful illustrators that are currently have published books. So that one also is good to listen to. In that same vein, I want to tell you about a few art business type of podcasts that I have listened to. The number one would be Amy Porterfield's Online Marketing. She drills home the point that you creative artists need to start an email list, something which I still to this day have not really done. I've done it, I dabbled in it a little bit, and then I dropped it, and I really wish I hadn't. So I want to get back to that, but Amy Porterfield's Online Marketing is great, as well as the Boss Babes. Is it the Boss Babe? The Boss Babe podcast. These two women are powerhouses and they tell it like it is, and they motivate you to up your marketing game and just get to it and get to work. Another business podcast is Proof to Product with Katie Hunt. She is such a sweet person, and she has a boot camp called Paper Boot Camp where you can learn how to take your greeting card designs and sell them wholesale in shops across the world. And many of her graduates go on to sell with some of the big names. She also teaches you how to take your illustrations and put them on other products and sell them wholesale as well. So if you're interested in wholesale, she's a good resource for that. And then there's the Inspiration Place with Miriam Schulman, who she is targeting the fine artists who want to sell their paintings in galleries and in home studios. But the takeaway I have from her is don't underprice your art. We artists tend to give things away, and I know that's how I am, and so we never make any money because we're always giving our stuff away. So she says, don't do that. You're only hurting yourself and you're hurting their industry. And last but not least, I want to tell you, in case you're interested in faith podcasts, my two favorite podcasts for family and marriage and raising kids is Family Life Today, and they are mainly a marriage podcast, and they are funny and they interview a lot of people, and you can learn a lot from listening to the people interview others and to hear the stories of their lives and how they dealt with things. And the second one is focused on the family. They've been around for a long, long time, and they have great advice for raising kids. So that is my list of podcasts that I enjoy listening to. And if you have others that I've left off this list, because I know I'm forgetting some. In fact, I can think right now there's something like the Handsome Frank podcast, I think. Anyway, there's some other ones that I've left off the list by accident. And if you can think of some, please let me know down in the comments below. I'd love to know what you're listening to. Thanks for listening, and go make some art today.